Hi, my name is Andy and I'm going to do a selection of poems today for my couple of books I've done over the past 10 years or so. The first one is my first book from a long time ago called A Forgotten Hero. The book it comes from is called Return to Kemp Town. This book originally came out in 2010, has recently had a reissue just to reflect the changing times with additional material and re-edited poems. But this is one of my favourite poems from said book, and this is called A Forgotten Hero. I haven't thought about flying for a long time. Haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. Haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green glass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past, nor scratched on the doors of the future where it all came from since I haven't got that cape for the last time. Not opened up the secret door at the back of my cupboard, nor have I reached that magic button which will explode me into life in the middle of my game. Instead, I sit here silent in the shadows of my house with just a drop of melancholy and half-baked memories as friends. Instead, I sit here in the shadows like the ghost of Christmas past and beg you to listen to my story of the hero the world has forgotten. I was a hero which lived in a nearby city which you'll know with a knowing smile if I whispered its name to you, but then was a haven of dark mazes and knife-throwing criminals. Nowadays I sit here with nervous nightmares as my days are a combination of a million sunsets I've seen cowboys disappear under, each one layered with a different layer of regret. I watch the shores brush against the coast like harsh tragedies and feel the windows shake softly which are trying to offer an escape route or return to former glories. I watch the world march on in new different directions with new governments and leaders crumbling into dust, all calling out for help and then rising from the ashes like a freshly born phoenix. But sometimes I wonder what the view would be like from the top of my block. Sometimes. Thank you. Okay, moving straight on. I'm going to do something for my second book now, which came out in 2015. And this book is called The End of Summer. Now, the point behind The End of Summer is there's a bit of symbolism here, really, because back in 2011, a year or so after I originally bought I returned to Kemp Town, I was fortunately diagnosed with diabetes. And this book that came from that a couple of years later doesn't really touch on the fact of diabetes. It looks at a different way of symbolism. Because I've always been a believer of life having 20-year cycles. So like the first 20 years is spring, then 20 to 40 is summer, then autumn and winter. And this book was, I got to when I was 39. So I initially looked at things like, that's the end of my summer. And it made me look at things a different way, really. So this piece is about looking back at myself, back all the way back then, and places I lived at from as a child to I eventually moved closest to where I am now. So this is called Migration. The flat near Lumford Park is still a huge mystery and got demolished shortly after you moved. I don't remember much about Moss Lane East, apart from that one winter there when the boiler kept breaking down, reducing the window to floods of tears. You only really remember that first spring at Barton Road, when your football smacked your sister that hard in the face, your mother must have used 20 buckets to wash out the blood. By the time your brother arrived, you'd moved just up the road, and within a week of moving, ended up going to your nana's funeral and didn't stop crying during the wake. Ripon Road, where two of your cats was buried, was less happy, as was Chatsworth Road, which was opposite your old high school, which nearly expelled your brother. Now, of course, you live in a different town, with memories like sails in the mist, bleeding over the sunset, etched in the past like closed factories, windswept in a wordless language. Cheers, guys. Okay, moving on chronologically, because I'm in that sort of frame today. A couple of years later, I bought out a book called The Birth of Autumn, which was, if you look at the end of summer, have a chance of looking backwards autumn, the first autumn is we're looking forwards. So it's like a slight change in direction. But this one's a reflective piece anyway, but it kind of fits into this style of his book. Back in 1995, I went off travelling for quite some time around Brazil. And this covers those days really. And this is called Ghosts into Negatives, Dreams of Brazil, 1995. I still dream of their tiny starved faces in Rio, huddled together in a frightened procession, underneath white plastic sheets and dirt-fled streets, and kicked wildly into the back piss-stained vans. Bus journeys and hiding underneath seats when bullets laced the bus wherever it stopped for a few seconds longer than it should have done in their own neighbourhood. Parties across the coastlines of Sao Paulo, where I worked at a bar for 2 weeks, barely able to speak a word of Portuguese and sleeping little more than 2 hours a night. I still dream of Brazil, losing myself in memories, splashing away in a white-tinted ocean at midnight, over 20 years after I left the cenotes of poverty, tethered to trees to the endless beaches. Across autumn fields brushed in burnt grass, and sudden violence that sequenced light, smearing the beauty into darkness, and the ghosts in the vans into negatives. Okay, moving straight on. Earlier on this year, and I had a bit of a slight change of direction here because I am still planning to write a full-length 4th collection at the moment, and it'll probably out next year now, I reckon. But I went and did like a mini book actually, of more like flash fiction than in poems, all under 10 lines each. And I bought about 50 of them out in a little book called The Streets Were All We Could See. So I'm going to read out 2 of these now for you. First one is called Waiting for the Ice to Melt. Curling itself into a ball to keep warm, the mermaid waits underneath the frozen ice, trying to keep warm. Okay, and the second one from The Streets Were All We Could See is Feelings Much Closer to Home. The train pauses for a few seconds as the guard looks back, almost like he was watching the steam recreate brief encounters again, with feelings much closer to home. Okay guys, I'm going to give you an exclusive now to conclude with, because I've got a split book, which is probably more of a chapbook again, due out in July with my partner, the lovely Amanda Steele, and we're going to call the book, bizarrely enough, I think when I'm going to play around with words, as you'll notice it's going to be called The Lockdown Was All We Could See. And I've obviously noticed in the little book before, because the streets were all we could see. You'll notice when you see the artwork, there is a similarity, and I think it's just a bit of a gag way between the pair of us. So, but I'm going to read out a tiny little poem from that one, really, because what we've done with this book is I've got, I think it's 7 poems in the book, and Amanda's got 7, and there's about 3 poems I wrote together. So it's all set around lockdown. Now, the piece I'm going to do from that now, my side, is simply called The Trees in Lockdown. Blowing itself along with the breeze, hung outside your window, you can see his apples blush like diamonds in the early morning sunset in lockdown, stashing its secrets in shadows under rust-left leaves, laced with rattling gates left unattended across deserted streets. Dangling there as an archway into wonderment, mummified in its swaying, feeling like our lives just out of reach. Okay guys, that's me done and dusted for today. My name is Andy N. All my books and bits and pieces can be found on Amazon. If you want to read out more about my blog, it is One Writer and His PC, and the word one is done as a word, not a number. So it's One Writer and His PC, all one word, full stop, blogspot.com. Okay guys, thanks again. Thanks to Aaron and the guys. It's been a wonderful read. I really enjoyed doing this. Take care. Bye bye.